Happy Easter, everyone. We'll be starting our service this morning by singing "I Know This Rose Will Open," and we'll be singing a little bit of a round. If you feel like joining in, do. The choir will be doing it that way, but just sing the melody if that's what you feel like doing, okay? I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. Thank you.
I know this rose will open. Today is a day when we come together to celebrate the unfurling of blossoms. We greet the dawn with awe that we have been given this new day. We speak to each other of resurrection, of liberation, of love beyond belief, bursting out of the edges, overflowing the cup of what we thought was possible. As we gather in this spirit this morning, let us root our hope in the insistence of spring, the life that we witness even after death. Yes, let us gather to celebrate the unfurling blossoms. Come, let us worship together. As we begin our service, we begin with a moment of grounding, acknowledging the land we are upon. This is the traditional land of the Duwamish people, stewards of this land, past, present, and future. With humility and gratitude, we honor this land and the Duwamish tribe and commit to our role in the story of repair with our relationship with this land and its people. Whoever you are, wherever you have come from, whatever the color of your skin, whoever and however you love, however your body moves or your brain works, however you identify, you are welcome in this faith community. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition has no test of faith, no creed or oath to swear. We have instead the promises that we make to one another, commitments we make to healing a hurting world within and beyond these walls. Welcome, everyone.
Good morning. I am Amy Schiefelbein, a worship associate. It's so great to see all of you in your hats this morning. It is good to be together for this service on the theme of Greeting the Dawn, a spring and Easter festival. If you are with us for the first time or the first time in a while, we are especially glad to have you. If you haven't already, please scan the QR code on the pew to sign up for the newsletter, The Westside Week. Our chalice lighting words are by Dillman Baker Sorrells. For holy days on which we recall the old stories, we light the flame. For Passover, which reminds us of courage and strength of those seeking freedom in the past, we light the flame. For Easter, which reminds us that love is our greatest challenge, we light the flame. For the flowering spring, which reminds us of the power of renewal and hope, we light the flame. For gathering today in this sacred space, we light the flame. for the opportunity to be together as a community, to remember the past, to plan for our future, to be alive in our present. Our chalice lighter today is Nora Greenberg. Nora is a 7-year-old and is a first grader at West Seattle Montessori School. She lives in West Seattle with her mom, Lynn, dad, Mike, and Labradoodle, Ruthie. She is a creative and curious kid who loves art, science, reading, music, and theater. She's a proud Daisy Girl Scout and has already picked out her own camp name. This is a scouting tradition that adopts nicknames that reflect your personality. The camp name she chose for herself is Lorax. What Nora likes most about church is the music and doing all of the RE activities. She cares about many issues, but is particularly drawn to equity and inclusion. She has learned about Dr. King, Rosa Parks, and many other civil rights leaders in school, and feels strongly about not judging anyone based on their skin color. An unusual fact about Nora is that she has a Unitarian superhero origin story. She is a third-generation Unitarian on both sides of her family. She also has a 5 times great-grandfather, Ezra Leonard, who was a Universalist minister, and her 3 times great-paternal grandmother, Mildred King, was one of the 17 founding members of the UU congregation in Summit, New Jersey. Her grandmother, Susan, their descendant, is an administrative force of nature who is the treasurer of her beloved First Unitarian Society of Westchester, and will probably be watching this recording online. And they say, "Hi, Grandma." Nora, thank you for lighting our chalice. Please join me in speaking the words of our congregation's affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship. Thus do we covenant for one another. Now let's take a moment and greet the neighbors around us. Thank you, everybody. Please feel free to continue the conversation after the service downstairs in the social hour.
I invite everyone to rise in body or spirit as we sing hymn number 61 in the gray hymnals, "Lo, the earth awakes again."
From
all. I am so glad that we are all here at this special multi-generational service. This is a time of year when people around the world tell old stories. Year after year, every spring for thousands of years. These are stories of new beginnings in unlikely situations, a dawning day that is different than what came before. Today we will encounter these stories together, in poetry, in music, and maybe just a little bit of theater with puppets. Throughout this service, you may want to know that we have a craft table set up in the back. Anyone of any age is welcome to go back there at any point. We have children's orders of services back there, Easter egg coloring pages, felt egg crafts, or you may want to add your own story to the chain of courage and care. It's at that side of the sanctuary that we started a couple of weeks ago, and there are instructions around if you want to know how to do that. And you may have noticed there are some eggs around here. They are all over the building, and so after the service, you are welcome to seek out the eggs, see what's inside, and just remember to leave some for others. We encourage sharing. This is a gift for all of us. So our first story today is one that is very important to the Jewish people and is also part of the Christian and Muslim history. It is told every year during the Passover festival, which we are now in, traditionally over a special dinner called a Seder. I'm going to tell a very short version of this very big story, and then Amy will share a Passover poem. So a long, long time ago, over 3,000 years ago, a group of people called the Israelites were living in Egypt as slaves under the Pharaoh. Life was very difficult, but it was all the Israelites had known because their people had been in this situation for generations. Someone named Moses was born as an Israelite but was adopted by the Pharaoh's daughter. So he was raised in the royal household and had access to quite a bit of privilege. As he grew up, he believed that life could be better for the Israelites. He felt his connection with them still. He had a deep sense of freedom and hope. So he went to the Pharaoh to ask him, "Let my people go." But at first, the Pharaoh refused, and Moses asked again. And it went on like this for some time. In the story, there is a series of events called plagues that happened, storms, illnesses, difficulties throughout the Egyptian land, sent to the Egyptian people by God to help the Pharaoh to see that things were really out of balance and to see how badly he needed to change his mind. Finally, things became difficult enough that the Pharaoh agreed to let the Israelites leave. But this happened quickly. The people needed to gather together and begin a long journey to a land that they could settle in and be free. They had to gather their things and leave that night. They didn't know exactly where they were going, but they knew they had each other, and they trusted that freedom was worth the risk. As they left Egypt, they had to cross a great sea, the Red Sea, and quickly because the Pharaoh's armies were coming up behind them. But with great faith, Moses stood before the waters, and in the story, the waters parted, opening a path of dry land so the people could cross safely. On the other side of the Red Sea was a large desert. The Israelites had left Egypt quickly, but it took them a long time to find a home. They had entered the unknown, where a new life away from slavery would be possible. And so I will invite Amy to share a poem inspired by this story, written by Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt. As Amy shares this story, let it be an invitation to you. Sometimes life calls us to journey into the unknown, out of times of fear into times where nothing is certain. Even now, this spring, let this story speak to us.
So the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading bowls wrapped in their cloaks upon their shoulders. Exodus 12:34. You'll need to travel light. Take what you can carry, a book, a poem, a battered tin cup, your child strapped to your chest, clutching your necklace in one hot, possessive fist. So the dough isn't ready, so your heart isn't ready. You haven't said goodbye to the places where you hid as a child, to the friends who aren't interested in the journey, to the graves you've tended. But if you wait until you feel fully ready, you may never take the leap at all, and infinity is calling you forth out of the birth canal and into the future's wide expanse. Learn to improvise flat cakes without yeast. Learn to read new alphabets. Wear God like a cloak and stride forth with confidence. You won't know where you're going. But you have the words of our sages, the songs of our mothers, the inspiration wrapped in your kneading bowl. Trust that what you carry will sustain you and take the first step out the door. In a moment, we will share in our offering a practice of generosity that sustains the work of this congregation. Each month, 1/3 of the undesignated offerings go to a partner in the wider community. For the month of April, our community giving recipient is Front and Centered. Front and Centered is a diverse and powerful coalition of communities of color-led groups across Washington state, whose missions and work come together at the intersection of environmental and climate justice. Together with key partners, our coalition actively works towards a just transition away from an extraction-based economy to one centered on ecological restoration, community resilience, and social equity. You can give by cash or check in the baskets that will be passed around. We have envelopes to record your name on those if you would like. To give by text, follow the instructions on the screen. And now please enjoy this gift of music, Let Me Believe, by Arian Norman and the West Side Chorale.
I wanted to mention real quickly that it didn't make it into the order of service, but Liz Bucklew is our soloist on this.
There is no light without a darkness. There is no peace without a storm. There is no hole without a missing. There is no bone with nothing torn.
And when you're in deep only sight, let me believe in light. Oh, let me
Thank you all for your generosity, and thank you to our musicians for your generosity. We've come to our second story, the story of Easter, a central important story to people in the Christian tradition. It is about Jesus, a great teacher and prophet, living about 2,000 years ago. He was killed by the rulers of the empire that he was living in because his teaching threatened their power. I have a story to tell this morning of the people who loved him, his community, and what happened after Jesus' body was put into a tomb, and Amy will help me tell it. You may know the traditional version of this story. The women come to tend to Jesus' body, and they find that it is no longer there. A miracle has happened, and they understand that Jesus has defeated death. They have proof that he is the Son of God in this miracle. In our version today, the writer focuses instead on the way that Jesus' spirit has been resurrected in all who carry forth his message. Our Unitarian Universalist heritage roots itself in this message that Jesus was a great teacher, and we can work to build his vision of the beloved community. Let this retelling invite us into this story and invite the story into our lives. It was written by Mandy Miglin.
At sundown on Saturday, the Sabbath finally over, Mary Magdalene and the other women who loved Jesus began to prepare spices to pour over his body to honor him and say a final farewell. They were up all night, cooking and talking and remembering his life. Then, as dawn began to break, they packed up the spices and headed to the tomb to pay respects to their friend and teacher. In their grief, they held hands for strength and took turns holding each other up as they walked, their feet dampened by the morning dew. When they finally arrived, the women stopped at the entrance of the tomb, steeling themselves before going in. After a few deep breaths, they finally stepped in, ready to say goodbye. But a body is not a person, and they didn't find Jesus in the tomb. They cried, desolate at their loss, broken, hopeless, in despair. Then they remembered.
They remembered that Jesus' life had been all about transformation, about taking what seemed hopeless and transforming it into abundance. Only 5 loaves of bread, but somehow 5,000 people had enough to eat. Vats of empty wine and nothing to drink but water spoiled by bacteria. But Jesus, they laughed through their tears as they remembered the way he had somehow made more wine appear. It had seemed almost magical. Jesus met and touched those untouchables, people tormented by madness, suffering from diseases, and the deep loneliness of being an outcast. Somehow, Jesus had managed to cast out the demons of despair and give people back communities of belonging and hope for their lives. In a temple defiled by swindlers, Jesus swept away the injustice. Oh, he was so mad, Mary remembered, laughing again. I still can't believe he flipped the tables over. They all agreed his methods were unorthodox, but it had worked. The temple was cleaned out, transformed back into a house of worship, an inspiration for justice.
Scripture sums up this scene inside the tomb, a moment of realization and remembrance with this simple line: "Why do you look for the living among the dead?" In this version of the story, Mary, the mother of James, her laughter drying up, is distraught once again over the scene in front of her. How could this have happened to Jesus? How could someone who had been so full of life and love and righteous anger be lying there so broken and cold and empty?
Magdalena crouches down, her hands on the shoulders of her weeping friend. "Mary," she says, "Mary, that's not him. Jesus, our teacher, our friend, is not here anymore. Yes, his body was broken by the state, but he knew that was going to happen, remember? He knew what he was getting into, and he believed that the cause he was fighting for was worth the cost. Jesus knew if he kept speaking up for the oppressed, if he refused to back down, that eventually it would come to this. You can't challenge the status quo, challenge the rich and powerful, the lawmakers and enforcers. You can't challenge them over and over again without getting hurt. But he knew he knew he had to do it anyway. James's mother shakes her head. It doesn't matter. It's not worth it. She would gladly go back and bear everything Jesus had fought against if only things would go back to how they were before, if only he would not be dead. Mary Magdalene puts her hands gently on her friend's face, looking into her eyes now. "Mary," she says gently, "we are here to honor this body that is not Jesus. We are honoring it with oils and tears, but we can honor the person that is Jesus if we take up his cause. We can keep his spirit alive by fighting for justice and liberation, as he did, by continuing his work. We promised we would, remember?"
Mary sighs, and together they remember the days before their crucifixion, when James and John had told Jesus they wanted a place of honor in the new and better world Jesus was trying to create. "You don't know what you're asking me," Jesus had said. The Marys understood now that when Jesus had asked, "Can you drink the cup I am about to drink?" what he meant was, "Can you follow in my footsteps all the way to the cross? Are you willing to die for the cause of justice?" They had all agreed at the time that yes, of course, they were willing. Jesus had nodded. "You will drink my cup, you will suffer as I am about to suffer, but I can't promise you that you'll see justice done in your day." That's a question bigger than any one of us. They were all a little angry then, but when Passover came and Jesus reminded them of their promise, they knew they had to keep it.
Yes, while they were eating their Passover meal, Jesus took the bread in his hands and began to speak. "I am working to create infinite justice, and I will never stop as long as I live." He looked around at them. "But you know as well as I do that as long as I live will not be very long. Even now there is a price on my head. Should I stop then? Should I cave to the threats against me?" Some of them wanted to shout in their love of him, "Yes, stop and stay safe," but they didn't dare. Jesus could see their fear, so he spoke deliberately, breaking the bread as he went on. "I will never stop." just as this bread is broken so that the hungry may eat and be nourished, so my body will be broken because of my efforts toward the liberation of everyone marginalized and oppressed. So he passed the bread around and told them, "Eat. And whenever you share bread, share in the work of my life. Work for justice and remember me."
And he took the cup after supper and said, "They may break my body, but they cannot break my spirit, because you have promised to continue my work even when I am gone." He looked at them each in turn. "Do you remember your promise? My blood is about to be poured out because I refuse to stop fighting for justice." He passed the cup around. "Drink from it, all of you, and remember that you promised to drink of my cup, to follow in my footsteps, to keep challenging oppression, and to carry on fighting for the liberation of those marginalized among you, just as I have done, no matter what. This cause is bigger than my life, and it's bigger than yours. There's no guarantee of success here, but you promised to keep fighting, to share in my work, no matter the cost. Whenever you drink this cup, renew that promise in your heart. Renew your commitment to justice, live in hope, and remember me." Days later, Jesus was crucified. It could have been just another execution of a fanatical rebel, the victory of fear, the death of hope for a better world. But Jesus' disciples took his words to heart, and they remembered.
Each time they ate and drank, the bread nourished the work of their bodies. The wine reminded them of their promise and gave them enough hope to return to the world and continue their struggle for liberation and justice. The meal, it was an intentional remembrance. And the continuation of the work helped transform the execution of this man's body into the resurrection of a spirit of justice, turned the death that is despair into the resurrection of hope. That spirit of justice, that life and hope spread over many continents and among many people. Some people engaged in the struggle for justice today call themselves Christians in honor of Jesus, as another way to remember this promise. Others have different identities, different memories, different sources of hope, yet the struggle is the same. Jesus' cup and cause was not his alone. It wasn't even his first. The work of liberation had millennia of history before he showed up, as he too was carrying on someone else's legacy. Still, no matter what name we call ourselves, no matter which stories we hold sacred, we too drink the cup that Jesus drank, when the cost of justice is no barrier toward our work toward liberation and peace.
In the soft earth beneath our dry feet, the earth, she moans and moves anew. And we are called to plant our seedlings with sacred deeds of deepening hues. across the blue sky above our heads. The sun's warm rays come right to us. The wind lifts spirits from our kingdom. Our love song reaches to newfound heights.
Primavera, la primavera, we give thanks for your living now. In this season of new beginnings, la primavera calls to us now.
The lilied springtime keeps coming forth, rebirthing us from dark places. With rain and misting they grow taller, and we grow deeper in good graces. As we emerge as siblings of faith, the spring tells us to show we care from one another and our mother, and let it be our solemn prayer.
There we go. Excellent. Well, good morning. We are going to have an interactive time for all ages. It is a Easter spring surprise. I would love a music stand. Would you mind? That would be great. So I will invite everyone who would like to see or hear better to come forward. That's perfect, to come forward, because I will need your participation. Children of all ages, adults, youth, please come forward. I will need your help. Wonderful. So I have some choices here. Would you mind being a mouse? Would you mind being a mouse? I need a hawk. Would you mind being a hawk or a frog? You have a choice. A frog. We have more frogs. I have a night hawk. Does anyone want to be a hawk? I have some frogs. Oh yeah, another frog. Would you? A chick? You want to be a chick? Oh, I only have the one chick. I have frogs. Frogs. Awesome. There might be some more puppets that got distributed, some tadpoles. Those are great. I just wanted to acknowledge you all up there. We also need some trees. Do we have any trees maybe in the pews that would be some trees? Okay, excellent. Trees know what they're doing already. You're standing and swaying and swishing. I'm also looking for some folks that will be with our pond. We have our ducks? Yeah, so maybe here with our ducks and frogs. Okay, so here's our pond. Excellent. We also need the sun. Do we have a sun? Someone who would shine on us. Excellent. And then, let's see here. make sure here we are. I need some flowers. Could you give these to some folks who will be flowers for us? Oh, flowers. Do we have some flowers? There we go. Feel free to share. Okay. So those are really nice. All right, you ready? So I'm going to just kind of go over our parts first before we start acting. Okay, so trees, you know what you're doing. You got your trees, okay. Everyone is also, we also have a kind of everyone peeping. It's like a little spring peep, 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 peep. Okay, you all got that really well. Okay, there might be a squirrel or two among us, and so that the squirrel is scampering. Our squirrel, okay, we got that. Our mice, do we have our mice? You can little squeak, nest building. Got that? Okay. Frogs and tadpoles, do you know what you do? Rip, ribbit, ribbit. And our tadpoles, rip, rip, rip. Okay, all right. I've got our pond, plip plop, plip plop. And our nighthawk, do we have our nighthawk? Do you know what the nighthawk does? We fly. Scree, scree. Yeah, okay. We got sun, you're shining among us, little fabric dancing, perfect. Okay, all right, everyone has our parts, so we're gonna start with the gray winter. Okay, so if you, whoever would like to grab our edges of and then some on this side, if you could just be some gray weather while we start our story. It wasn't a particularly hard winter, but it was long, dreary, and colorless. No wonder that when the first winds of March blew warm air across the land, there's a little rainbow there that might be part of the blowing the winter away with the warm. Then our mice, the first creatures, sat on their haunches, smelling the warm air. They knew what this meant, that the green time was coming and the small first shoots of grass would taste very good and begin to show themselves. Ah, sighed the mouse, tender grass to nibble on and line my nest for my babies. Oh, thank you for that warm spring air coming in. Then the fuzzy-tailed squirrel scampered to and fro, up and down the trees. We still have trees. The squirrel paused for a moment to look at the ducks as they were working on their nest. The squirrel remembered a spot where they had hidden a particularly juicy chestnut. They hoped that the mice hadn't found it yet. And then the hawk surveyed the land. Their favorite tree was still there, and the nighthawk passed the winters far to the south, but was always glad to come home. And the trees were all fuzzy and green with baby leaves, and the flowering trees were bright with colored petals. And over there were the flowers waving, nodding. The warm sun shone down upon the land, and the grass glowed with green vigor upon the little mice as they put the finishing touches on their nest. On the flowers, too, the sun gave warmth to the wings of the nighthawk as it soared in the wind, beamed on the duck family as they worked on their nest, and the sun gleamed on the fuzzy-tailed squirrels scampering about, even glittering on the pond far below. Deep in the quiet pond, where the water never quite froze, even in deep winter. And suddenly, the frogs plopped out of their mud nests, and the tadpoles began to swim in the warm, sun-warmed pond. And they dreamed of jumping high into the air to see the grass at the edge of their world. And the peepers all joined in the pond music and the colors of spring. And then, can you take these and spread across? there in the musical, colorful world where their grass was green and the daffodils and flowers and flowering trees nodded in the breeze, and the trees swayed and the grass was green, and the tadpoles dreamed and swam in the waters of the pond, where the fuzzy squirrels scampered in the trees as the nighthawk settled into a tree, where the sun shone down on the little mice as they tended their nest, and the ducks nested on their eggs. What a wonderful promise of spring had come to fulfillment. Thank you, thank you. And you may keep your puppets. If you could take your fabric and put it there in the first pew, if you have any of our fabrics for today, yeah, and you can leave them at the table when we're all done. Take your puppets with you.
All right, while we're doing all of this, we invite you all to rise in body or spirit as we sing For the Earth Forever Turning, and we're doing it a little brisker than we normally do, kind of to keep thinking about the earth spinning a little faster.
Thank you to all of our service participants, including Scott Farrell and the West Side Chorale, instrumentalists Dan Kramlich, Ronnie Bishop, and Ellis Marchand, soloists Liz Bucklew and Jack Conley, Reverend Carter Smith, Leilani Davenberry, Nora Greenberg, Nate Mesnard, and Sarah Deppa, ushers, hospitality, and everyone else who helped with this service. As always, it is a pleasure and blessing to do this sacred work together.
I'll invite you all to please rise one more time in body and or spirit for our closing words. As we go from here, may we give ourselves over to the new dawn that is breaking. May we have the courage to go into the unknown when the time comes. May we drink from the common cup of humanity and be nourished in the work of liberation. May we hold reverence for this musical and colorful world. I will now invite Nora to come forward and release our flame. As she does so, may you go into this week blessed and blessing the world. We hold you in our love as you go.